Hey, the YouTubes is. Welcome back to yet another video by the Guitar Slinger Hockey. This is 2 in 2 days, 2 videos. So I have another, I don't know if I would call it a blade review, curve review, or comparison. I guess it's more of a comparison here. But I want to talk about why even the CCM P90TM curve. I want to talk about how it's different from the CCM P29 and just kind of go over who might like it, who might not like it, and not really trying to convince anybody that it's good or bad. It's just, another curve in the offering, and I think honestly having more options is good. Um, but whether or not this curve does anything different than anything else that's out there, we can try to address that here and hopefully give you some good information. And so for a little background on this particular curve, so CCM has said they wanted to make a curve that takes the best parts of the P29 and also the toe curve of the P28 and turn them into the P90TM. If you're also not aware, this is a pretty close representation of what the Pro Stock Jamie Benn curve looks like. So it's kind of like a P29 with a bit more of a toe hook, which we'll go over. So we'll see though if that all really makes a difference and what the pros and cons are. So just kind of looking at this photograph, as you can see, we have two CCM AS4 Pro Super Tack sticks. The one on the left with the white tape is the P90TM, and the one on the right with the black tape is the P29. So let's take a little bit of a closer look at these curves. So upon first glance, the things that I noticed before shooting this stick, or shooting this curve, was that the blade looks very similar to an old school Tavares pattern with a couple of tweaks to it. In fact, this might be called, the P90TM might actually be called the Tavares pattern, if I'm not mistaken. That's an old school CCM curve if you haven't seen that in a while. But anyway, so first things I can see between the P90TM on the left and the P29 on the right with the black tape on it is that the P90TM is a taller blade from top to bottom. The toe also looks to be, it's still round, but it looks a little bit more square-ish than what we see on the P29. But really from this angle, you can't see much more of a difference. So let's take a look at the actual curvature and see if we can notice any differences here. So from my perspective, just taking a look at the blade, I know it's a little hard to see with the dark tape on the P29 on the right and a little bit of a shadow in between here. But from what I can tell, the first 3/4 of both blades look almost exactly the same. But it's the toe area of the P90TM and the white tape that is where we see a departure. So I'm seeing not only the pronounced toe kink on the end of the toe, but I'm also seeing a little bit more of an openness to the toe area too. So that's really all I can tell when I'm looking at this curve, these two curves just from the top down look. Well, let's take a look at some other specs. So if you saw my last video, the P92 compared to the P29, and if they were the same curve, one of the only things that I should say the only thing those two curves had in common was the blade length. So both the P92 and the P29 were exactly the same length. As we can see here, the P90TM in the white tape is ever so slightly shorter than the P29. Believe it or not, I can tell a difference on stick handling on these two sticks, these two curves. The P90TM actually stick handles a little bit better and is a little bit more in alignment with the length of a P28 than the P29. So for the shorter the blade, generally speaking, you get a little bit better control with regard to stick handling. But there is a difference here, as we can see. Additionally, when we talk about lie, we are now seeing a difference. So the Super Tax with the white tape on the handle is the P90TM. So we have a lower lie than the P29. So right now, This means that the P90TM is probably as traditional of a true Live 5 stick curve as you could get. And that would probably be pretty similar to a Bauer P88 curve, like the cane pattern, with regard to lie. Even though the stick actually says lie 6 on it for those Bauer sticks when we're looking at the P88, but it's a lie 5. So it's probably in alignment with that curve. So the P90TM, again, it's more of a true lie 5, but there's not really much of a difference here. I would say probably only a quarter of a degree in comparison to what the P29 was with the P92 curve. So lower lie on the P90TM, which is good for people who keep the puck far away from their bodies, like most rec beer league players. Okay, so here's where we start to get in some of the specs that are making it a significant difference between the P29 and the P90TM. So again, we're looking at the P90TM here, the throat height, and we are seeing a measurement of 66.34 millimeters in height. So for reference, they're trying to do CCM is trying to do a little bit of a max height pattern, but this is not nearly as high as we would find on a Bauer P92M. So their max height version. They're like an old school original gangster max height, whereas CCM is just doing something that's got a taller throat height than the P29. And I will roll in an image of the P29 throat height here. And we can see that there's a very significant difference between the P29 and the P90TM. This is directly going to impact face-offs, deflections, how easy it is to receive hard passes that are kind of bobbling around, and things like that. So there's a lot lower of a throat height on this P29 curve that we're looking at here than that of the P90TM. To me, the P90TM throat height is a big win. But anyways, let's take a look at some other specs. Looking at the toe of the P90TM, we can see that we're getting 75.03 millimeters of height, which is definitely higher, which is a larger toe than we're seeing on the P29. So this is going to be another good feature with regard to toe drags and pulling that puck close to your body, especially in conjunction with that little bit of a toe kink that this curve does have. So let's take a look in comparison to the P29 toe. So instead of that 75 millimeters, we're looking at basically 73 millimeters for the height of this toe. And, you know, really, I know that these don't always appear to be significant differences, but this is definitely one where you get a little more surface area on toe drags on the P90TM versus this one here on the P29. So that's a significant difference. Let's take a look now at how wide the blades are and if there's any differences there. So one of the things about this curve, the P29TM, that I've noticed is this is a chunky old blade. So we're looking at 8.92 millimeters on the chunkiness factor. So this is going to lend itself to be a more dampened feeling blade than any of the other curves from CCM. This is pretty close to what we might see on a Bauer P92 curve, but this is still chunkier. So let's take a look at the P29 curve. So taking a look at the P29, we can see that this is only 7.54 millimeters in thickness. So this is a relatively thin blade, which is that going to kind of get you that pop and that puck feel that you're looking for. One other side note that I will make is that the 8.92 millimeter thickness of the P92 curve is actually only very, very slightly thicker than your average P92, which is around 8.7 millimeters. So any of you P92 junkies will like the thickness of the P90TM. They're that close. So the last measurement that I want to share with you guys is actually regarding the blade lie. So very similar to the P28 curve, The P90TM is actually a dual lie blade, unlike the P92 or the P29. It's pretty difficult to see in this picture, but the first 3/4 of the bottom of the blade is that lie 5. It's pretty flat, and about the last quarter of the blade towards the toe, it kind of bends up to be about a 5.5 lie, maybe a little less than that. So that's kind of reminiscent of the P28. So it means that it's going to be pretty flat for passing and stick handling, but then it allows you to rock the heel off the ice onto the toe to pull the puck close to your body, that sort of thing. So that is a difference, and that's actually something that people might love or hate. So, with that said, I think I'm going to give you my final thoughts on what I think this stick is good for and who it might be good for. Okay, so my final thoughts on this curve, the P90TM, is that no one's going to like this curve. So it's just kind of one of those things where hockey players just hate change, so they're not going to move to this one. I personally think that this curve, they're going to phase it out eventually. You know, I can't imagine that the sales on the P90TM are, you know, increasing week by week and month by month to rival that of the P29 or the P28 curves. It's just not really going to be that kind of curve for people. Here's my experience using both of these curves, the P29 and the P90TM. The P90TM does a really good job with regard to your passing game, your deflections, saucer passes. I think it's easier to elevate the puck using the toe if you're in close to the net than with a P29. I think that the stick it shoots very similar to a P29, so long as you release the puck off of the blade in the right spot. And what I mean by that is if you roll the puck along the blade on your shot, and it gets too close to the last quarter of the blade, the puck will porpoise downwards, kind of similar to a P28 if you release it too close to the toe. So it definitely it's not as forgiving as the P29 with regard to its shot because of that toe kink on the end of it. However, it does feel very similar to the P29 when you shoot it. I think the P29 has a harder shot. One thing that I will give to the P90TM is I'm the type of person that takes a lot of wrist shots from the top of the circle and the blue line, tend to play defense a lot. This thing is bar down from the top of the circles. It is really good at that, whereas the P29, it can be bar down, maybe a little high over the net, and then the P92 from Bauer is just sails high on the net. So from an accuracy from further out, the P90TM does a really good job at that. You know, like I said about passing, I love the passing with this one because it's got a thicker, more dampened blade, and it's, you know, I don't have to worry about pucks bouncing over the top of the throat area on the blade like you do on the P29. But at the end of the day, if I'm going to be forced to choose a curve out of anything, it's going to be a P29. It's just way more predictable. I think that even though the P29 has its weaknesses, it's pretty hard to beat that one. And you know, there is a lot of commentary about who the P90TM is meant for, since it's kind of a blend of the P29 and the P28. I can tell you beyond the shadow of a doubt, and I know that's being extremist to say that, but if you are currently using a P28 curve and you are considering moving to the P90TM, do not do that. You will not like this curve. This curve is best suited for those people who are transitioning from a P29 or a P92 to the P90TM. That is a really easy, seamless transition. Whereas going from a P28 where you have to use the toe to shoot, the toe on the P90TM is not meant to be shot with. It's meant to be pulling the puck close to your body before you shoot. So you got to keep that in mind. I do think that the P90TM does stick handle a little bit better than the P29. It could be just because the blade is slightly shorter, or there's the bottom of the blade is flatter than the P29. It's not as contoured, and that could make it a little bit easier. But at the end of the day, I'm choosing the P29 for myself. But yeah, make sure you're aware of that if you're a P28 user and you're kind of sniffing around and see if it might be worth your time. It won't be for you. You won't like it. But anyways, that's my. I know that right now I've been actually using the P90TM on my CCM FT5 Pro jet speed, and I've been having a good time with it. But you are more prone to flubbing shots in a weird manner with the P90TM than with the P29. So, take that for what you will. At the end of the day, I do think this curve is going to disappear within the next couple of years, just like the P30 from CCM did. But, time will tell. And anyways, let me know if you have any questions. Definitely shoot me some comments. And other than that, we'll talk again soon. Peace out.